everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of At the Office. I'm your host, Simone, and I'm here today with Warren and Anthony.
What's up, world?
What's up?
You guys ready for today?
Oh, man.
I'm war ready.
You war ready.
As always.
Man, have no fear. The beard is here.
Well, guys, we got definitely a lot to talk about, so let's jump right on in. In Week 4, Raiders linebacker Vontaze Burfict was ejected from their game for a helmet-to-helmet hit on tight end Jack Doyle. After the following Monday, Burfict was given a season-ending suspension, which Burfict filed a grievance. After the grievance, the suspension was upheld. Burfict is out officially for the rest of the season and the playoffs. Anthony, was the suspension fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This dude has had so many issues around this topic in his career that it's time for the NFL to do what they need to do around this issue, right? We've lost a lot of NFL greats, legends, because of the issue of CTE. For those that know, the CTE is brought on by multiple concussions and head trauma. So this is why the NFL went ahead and put in the rule of less contact on quarterbacks and less helmet-to-helmet hits because of brain issues. You know, it's definitely warranted. Now, if this was this man's first or second issue with these helmet-to-helmet hits, I would say that the league is pushing it. You know, I'm more so of a pro player. I'm always going to try to go ahead and side with the player in most issues. But in this issue, I am still siding with the players, but I'm going to go ahead and caution on the side of player safety more than I'm going to go ahead and try to say that the player in this specific situation is who to go with. Because this dude has had multiple issues with this. The league actually went ahead and found another unnecessary hit that this dude had in that same game that was not called and not noticed by the referees. So you can only go ahead and have the same issue so many times. I mean, a batter can only strike out 3 times and he's out of there.
I get what you're saying. I get your point. You know, the dude, he has a history of these egregious hits. But, I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate in this whole situation because I look at the hit, and if you look at his launch point, you know, and where he made the tackle at, it looked like Doyle caught it on his knee and then he was getting up. You know, like he was getting up to make a play. And to me, the game has gotten so soft as to where the game has gotten harder for defenders than it has for offensive players. Because it's like you have let's say I'm a linebacker and I'm about to tackle a receiver that's coming across the middle. I have a launch point and I can only hit him between here and there. If I hit him, you know, maybe too low, he might be defenseless. I'm going to get a penalty. If I hit him too high, it's helmet to helmet. I'm going to get like a 15-yard penalty, automatic first down, and I'm going to risk being fined and ejected. And it's so hard in a split second for me to make a tackle on a receiver, you know, that's coming across the middle, know he's going to get hit. You know, as soon as he catches the ball, he's going down, he lowers his head, and, you know, I have already picked my spot of where I'm going to hit him at. You know what I mean? And then he lowers his head, and when I launch, it's a completely different. I'm angling for a different part of his body, and so when I actually make contact, it's head to head, but that's not initially where I aimed at. You know, you get what I'm saying?
No, and I understand that, but that's not the issue with this topic. If Jack Doyle was coming across on a slant route or even a drag route, and Vontaze went ahead to go hit him, and somehow Jack went ahead and lowered his head to brace for impact, and they hit helmet to helmet, I would understand that. But when you look at it, the ball was being at a lower trajectory, so Jack was already almost catching the ball on his knee.
Right.
So it's not the fact that you went ahead and you needed to hit this dude. You could have went ahead because the knee was down. There were other things that you could have done.
True, but I mean, there is other ways you could go about it. But like I said, we're playing the game of football. This is the NFL, so it's almost where you got to intimidate the next player. You got to intimidate, like, all right, I'm the middle backer. You know, I'm gonna rule the middle of the field. you ain't coming across the middle of my field. Like, I understand where he caught the ball.
But he wasn't even in motion.
I mean, I agree. But, I mean, he caught up almost to make a play, to be honest. Like, he caught it, and he was on his knee, and then he got up, and then Buffett hit him.
No, he still had his knee almost to the ground. There was no play with that. That's like me going ahead and running a curl route and then you coming across because I went ahead and I hit my 5-yard or my 7-yard mark or my 10-yard mark and I go ahead and I turn around and pivot and the ball's coming at a lower trajectory. So I go ahead and get on one knee to catch it and you come across and hit me helmet to helmet. That's what it was. It wasn't Jack Doyle was coming across. No, man, because you can't go ahead and sit here and say that this man, if he was running in motion and they bumped helmet to helmet in motion, I would understand.
It's a little different because from when I watched the video, to me it looked like Doyle caught it on his knee, and he was getting up, to get extra yards to get some yak. And I agree though. I do agree that Vontaze Burfict, he probably could have went up and just put his hands on him and have been into the play, or he could have, he could have tackled him. He could have came at him a different way.
Hit him with the shoulder pad.
Right. I agree. And like I said, he has a history of doing these things. You know what I mean? So I agree with you on all that. But my stance on it is just it's ridiculous for defensive players, period. It's just ridiculous.
But you also got to think about it too, is that defensive players are the ones that are doing the hitting.
Correct.
The offensive players are the one getting hit. So I don't always agree with, especially like last year. When Clay Matthews had 2 penalties on him because he didn't hit the quarterback the right way. And it wasn't a helmet-to-helmet hit. It wasn't anything unnecessary roughness. It wasn't anything egregious.
It's the body weight penalty.
It was the body weight penalty.
Correct.
And there was a lot of issue among defensive coordinators in the league because those 2 Clay Matthews penalties, those cost them. Those were significant plays.
Right.
Right? So I understand the whole, okay, that's a body weight issue. But this is the dude that has been suspended multiple times.
I agree, but it wasn't an egregious hit. It wasn't like that AB hit in the playoffs. Like, to me, that was outlandish. That was uncalled for.
But did you see the hit that they didn't see?
I didn't see that one. I seen that, the NFL did find that afterwards. I guess they reviewed the whole tape of the game, and they found another hit. So I did see that another hit was found. I didn't actually see the footage. I seen the first hit, and to me, it wasn't egregious. The only thing I felt that was egregious about that whole thing is how he exited the field. When he left the field and he was celebrating and taunting to the fans, to me, that was uncalled for and what he shouldn't have done. And probably, I think that ultimately that's what led to him being suspended for the whole season. If he doesn't do that, I don't think
it was the taunting. I think that sprinkled a little bit of the postseason too.
Yeah,
I think the taunting, if anything, could have went ahead and expanded to the postseason. But I think because this dude, I think it was a vice president of the NFL, went ahead and wrote him a letter in the past, and it said, "Look, cut it out. Right? You're endangering our players."
Right.
Right. At the end of the day, this dude knew what he was doing. Jack Doyle was not going to go ahead. There were many other ways for you to go ahead and hit somebody. But for you to go ahead and go in there and go helmet to helmet, even if it is a split second, you can measure up a dude that's on his knee and you're going to be able to go ahead and how you're going to tackle this.
But dude. I mean, how further must we go to where, we're all about the offensive player. Let's not hurt the offensive player. Let's not endanger the offensive player.
But it's not even the offensive player.
Like, how far are we going until we start endangering the defensive player? Like, where you're telling these players that are pro players that played the game this way, tackle this way all their lives. They've been playing since Little League. And now they get to the pros and you're like, okay, you gotta change your launch point and your contact point. To where now defensive players are not used to that. They have to retrain themselves and they're tackling awkward. Like, they could injure themselves, hurt themselves, trying to adjust on the fly. You know what I mean? And it's something I feel like the league needs to take a deeper look at. It's too one-sided. It's too one-sided, and the defense already it's tough to line up across from a receiver and try to guard a receiver. You don't know what route he's going to run, where the quarterback's going to throw it, when he's going to throw it. and I got to stop this guy from getting 10 yards, getting a first down. And then you're going to hold me accountable. You know, if I put my hand on him after 5 yards, that's a holding. If I touch him after 5 yards or put both of my hands on him or grab his jersey, I'm going to get a PI. And then now I got to watch where I tackle him. And then I'm going to get a helmet, a targeting. It's become increasingly hard to play defense in the NFL. And from the fan watching the game, it's getting upset. It's upsetting. Like, I remember Tom Brady came out a couple weeks ago, and he actually plays in the league. And I believe he was watching a Sunday night game or Monday night game, and there's a penalty in the game, and he was just like, there's quite a few penalties in that game.
That was the Tennessee game.
Yeah, and he was just like, he tweeted, or I think he was on Instagram, he's like, tweeted. I'm not watching it no more. He's like, it's crazy. It's getting hard to watch football.
But these weren't helmet-to-helmet hits. You're going to tell me that this dude that is a habitual offender that has had multiple issues because he had the AB issue, right? That was the most notorious one. This dude has not been suspended once because of this issue. He's not been suspended twice of this issue. This is the 4th time that this dude has had this issue. Now, you mean to tell me that there's one dude who continues to have the same issues 4 times now? And how many middle linebackers are in the NFL? At least 32 that are on the field at any given time?
Correct.
Right? Well, I'll even do you one better, right? We have 3 linebackers at least, right? We'll stick to 3. Middle, left, and right. Mm-hmm. So 32 times 3 is what? 96. You mean to tell me that one dude continues to have this issue and the other 95 are somehow not having the same helmet-to-helmet issue? Because how many times do you see a helmet-to-helmet issue on any given Sunday in the league besides Vontaze?
You see it all over the league every week.
But you see a helmet-to-helmet issue?
Yeah, there's
where
always...
dudes are getting... How many dudes are getting suspended for it?
I mean, dudes... I don't think dudes are getting suspended, but guys are getting fined for it every week. Like, the helmet-to-helmet issue is happening every week. And it's happening on all levels. I see it in college, and I see it in pros. But, I mean, back to the Burfict stuff. Let's say you erase his history today, and you watch that single play, that one play he made on Detroit. Let's say
Indy?
Against Indy. Let's say you're Roger Goodell. Is that one play worth suspending him for the season plus playoffs?
No, it's not. But I'm with you 100% on that. But this is a dude. This is not his first.
I agree.
It's not his second. This is not even his third.
But the NFL allowed this man to come back. So if you're allowing this man to play in the league, you know what I mean?
But you're going to ban him after are you going to ban him after the first time?
I mean, if you're fed up with him, you're fed up with him. You said it's not his first, it's not his second, not his third. This recent occurrence was his 4th offense. I mean, you're allowing this man to play in the league.
Yeah, but you also have the union on his side too.
But you can't.
That's why he went ahead and the last one he agreed.
But judge him for the recent acts. Don't keep punishing the man for what he's done in the past. So you're going to keep punishing him for this, and that, when that hit he made wasn't equal to the AB hit. Like, I completely agree with you. If the man came out and he hit Doyle like he hit AB, you're just like, damn, like, this fool doesn't get it.
But you mean to tell me that this
hit
dude,
him like AB.
This dude, but he still hit him helmet to helmet.
It was, but it wasn't egregious.
It wasn't that Jack Doyle went ahead at the last second and he lowered his body, or he caught the ball on a slant or a drag route across the field, caught the ball and then prepared for impact. He stood still and caught the ball with his knee almost touching the ground. You don't need to hit a man like that, helmet to helmet, or get ready for it. And I think what even added it to it more is the fact that he did another egregious hit, if you will.
I have to see that one. I got to see the footage on that one.
You need to look at it because it was unnecessary, because he hit a receiver. I don't remember who it was on the left side of the field, but the play was over on the right side.
I'd have to see it. I don't.
The ball was on the completely other end. The receiver didn't even have I don't think it was T.Y. Hilton, but the ball was on the other side.
I have to see it. I can't really speak too much on that one. I mean, you may be right on that one. I mean, but going like strictly off the Doyle hit, I don't think it's worth suspending the man for this whole season. He's done, including season and playoffs. I don't think that one hit is worth that. Like, you forgave him to play this year in the NFL. So grade him off what he did. Okay, suspend him maybe for 1 or 2 games. But to give him
But he just got suspended a third time and got it reduced down to, I think it was 4 or 5 games.
Something like that. I'm not sure.
But that's your third time.
I agree, but you
My
let him
guy.
back. You let him back. You let him back.
Okay, but that's the
league.
same thing as me committing 3 felonies for the same thing. Oh, but you let me back. I served my time. I did X amount of years, but you let me back. You didn't go ahead and give me life the first time.
I mean, look at it though. Like, I cheat on a girl 3 times. She takes me back. Whose fault's that? That's her fault. She shouldn't have took me back. You know I cheated on you once. You know I cheated on you twice. You know I cheated on your ass 3 times. 3 times I cheated on you, but you still took me back. And then I cheat on you a 4th time. Whose fault is that?
You got one hell of a union rep.
Stop it. Stop it. Who's at fault for that?
Okay,
Obviously, she's a dummy, right?
But the difference between you cheating on a female and the NFL is that the NFL is in a union. Correct or not? And they go through a grievance process.
Correct.
That's why the NFL, it's not easy to go ahead and say, well, you know what, you've done it 3 times, you're out of here. Because they tried to suspend him at least 6 to 8 times, and he grieved it. And they went ahead and it went up to arbitration to a mediator. And the mediator said, okay, we're going to knock this suspension down to 4. The union process is a very different process than you as a non-union boyfriend cheating on a non-union female. That's different.
But the union is her conscience, like, and how she feels about this fool, like.
And obviously, the conscience was saying, let's suspend his ass for 4 months, 8 months. And somehow the grievance process went ahead and said, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and knock you down 4 games. You got to realize is that the NFL is starting to go ahead and be more conscious of the safety. That's why the helmets have changed. I mean, that's like you trying to say, well, if Zeke wants to go out there and wear the same helmet that they did in the 50s with that, what the punters used to wear, the punters don't even wear the single bar helmet no more.
I agree.
But if Zeke wants to go ahead, or Saquon or Kamara or whoever else wants to go ahead and wear that 1 bar helmet, but they're the running back, let them. No, the NFL is trying to go ahead and make the game safer. This is already a violent sport. The human body is not conditioned, I don't care who you are, to go ahead and take the amount of, I don't even know what you want to call. I don't want to call it violence, but impact and wear and tear that you would within 3 years in the NFL. The body's not conditioned for that. We've lost a lot of legends and a lot of great players because of CTE.
But that's what I disagree with. Like, CTE, I believe there's been more players that's played the game that have lived normal lives, maybe with or without CTE, than players that have lived troubled lives with CTE. I mean, all you hear is all the NFL, and I wouldn't even say the NFL. It's like people that are against the NFL, all they want to do is highlight, the troubled people that had CTE and they live troubled lives, like Junior Seau and, Aaron Hernandez. Like, those are like bad cases of it. Like, those are the people that played in the league. One committed suicide. One had a double homicide,
Well, no,
and committed suicide in prison as well.
But was found out to have CTE.
Right. But how many players that have lived successful lives with CTE? We don't know this. Like, NFL's been played for years. Years. Tons of players came and go from the NFL. You can't tell me, Steve Young may have CTE today. The guy's on TV.
But you don't know what that man's going through behind the scenes.
I mean, we don't. But we know. We know thus far he hasn't committed suicide. He ain't got no bodies. He hasn't killed nobody. He's not in prison.
Well, Aaron Hernandez, he didn't do what he did because he had CTE.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
He was living that life.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he even had problems in college. There was a bunch of rumors around him around college. So it's like, I'm a huge fan of football, and it disappoints me. I have personal interactions with the CTE stuff. I have a cousin, who's her little son just He lives and breathes football. She doesn't want him to play because of head injuries. You know what I mean? And I try to explain to her, like, look, the game's been played for years. It's much safer now than what it used to be.
But that's what, and that's my point exactly, is that the NFL is trying to go ahead and make it safer than what it has been in the past.
I agree with that.
That's the whole thing. But you have this dude that continues. I want to say the VP of the NFL wrote him a letter and said, look, for you to go ahead and have the VP of the NFL handwrite you a letter, or even write you a letter that says, look, you have X issue, you have a necessary roughness, helmet to helmet, whatever you want to call it, knock it off. At that point, you got to realize that, okay, this is not just a template memo that I'm going to go ahead and get handed to me. This is from the VP of the league telling me to go ahead and cut it out.
Right.
Because you're injuring people.
Right. His hit against AB, like I said, it was egregious and uncalled for. There's no room for that in the league, period. What he did is I'll never side with that. Like, you just don't do that to players. You got to have respect for human life. You know what I mean? And that play, he just had no respect for the man.
But for him to go ahead and go off the field in the manner that he did after hitting Jack Doyle, does that show you that he had respect for Jack Doyle?
I mean, from the outside looking in, I agree. It looks like he had no respect. You know, and you know, maybe I don't know how the NFL came to their decision. I do feel like that played a role into it, you know, and I mean, it makes everybody look at Burfict like he's the bad guy, like he's a bad guy.
But he's had the bad guy narration, since the whole AB situation.
And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He does deserve it for his antics, what he does, and especially how he left the field.
This dude has lost over $4 million just in fines because of this specific type of issue. He has lost almost a whole season worth of games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because of this issue, and you continue to have the same issue. So at what point, because it's not easy to go ahead and just tell Vontaze, you're gone. NFL, we're done with you. We wash your hands. Because you got to go through a lot of red tape, and you got to set precedents to get this dude out of here. It's not you're an at-will hire. You have union representation. So you have to go ahead and go through certain measurements and certain guidelines and process and procedures to get this dude out of here. So this may be presenting them with the fact to go ahead and you do it again. Okay, we've already suspended you a season. We're done with you. Wash your hands, because and this is the thing too, is that he's not only endangering other players, but he's endangering himself.
He might already have CTE.
He might, but look at Shazier. He was a linebacker himself.
Mm-hmm.
And look at that story.
Yeah, but his story is not CTE though. He was paralyzed.
But why? Because of a I'm not gonna say it's a helmet to helmet, because of the way that the play went ahead and happened.
I mean, he I think if I remember right, when he tackled, I think he went down with his head, and it was just a bad tackle.
It was almost like a freak accident.
Yeah.
But this is the stuff that the NFL is trying to stop.
I agree.
They're trying to go ahead and protect these people, because they've already had a bad rap in so many other different ways. I mean, Junior Seau, I grew up watching Junior Seau. I got football cards of him on the Chargers. Like, I followed, as one of my earliest memories as watching football as a child, was just the beast that was Junior Seau.
I agree. But that my problem with that is that's just one of few cases compared to thousands of players that played in the league and probably live with CTE to this day and living normal lives.
But you can't say that they're living a normal life.
I mean,
look at Megatron. Look at Calvin Johnson.
Well, I mean, he just didn't want to put his body through the rigs anymore. But
you didn't see the article that he came out and said he used to smoke weed?
Yeah, every day.
I would smoke weed every day because I didn't want to get hooked on opioids and I didn't want to put my body through the
Somebody
thing.
else said that
Percy
too.
Harvin said that too.
Yeah, Percy Harvin. But the CTE issue is not just a football issue though, because I mean even I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of soccer players suffer from CTE, and people are just like, how are soccer players getting CTE? And I remember watching this on Sports Science is like if a player is on this side of the field or wherever and they kick the ball in the air and you have a player traveling at, let's say, like 12 miles per hour running this way and he jumps to head the ball in there, you know, in the goal. Like there's soccer players that could have CTE.
So think about it like that. You have a dude that's running at 12 miles an hour, which it isn't going to be the same velocity or the same, and he's hitting a soccer ball.
That's a soccer ball that's hard with no helmet. But
that's my point, is that you have Vontaze, who is over 250. Bro, has to be over 250.
Yeah, but at that point, he's not traveling at no 10 miles per hour.
But he's also not a 10-pound, not even, soccer balls are what, a few pounds?
I'm not sure how heavy a soccer ball is.
But so can we agree that we can say 5 pounds at max?
Possibly, but I mean, there's a lot of different forces that are in play.
But you have 250 pounds of momentum.
I agree, but you have,
and you're standing still.
But you have protection though. You have a helmet, or you have something that's at least protecting your head. But with you're playing with a soccer ball that's filled to capacity, that's kicked, you know, from a player probably the hardest they can kick a ball. Traveling through the air, you're stopping with your head and then adding your force, your momentum to a ball in a certain direction. I mean, with no protection, with nothing on your head. I mean, you can't tell me, I mean, your brain is not ringing back and forth when you do that. You can't tell me. You can't.
Absolutely. No, yeah, it is.
I mean, I'd rather be in a helmet. I'd rather be in a helmet than hitting a ball, you know, running at X amount of hours per hour with no protection.
So you're rather telling me that you would rather go ahead and be Jack Doyle, where you catch a ball and you're not moving, you're catching a ball here, and you have a 250-pound man coming at you and hitting you helmet to helmet in your head.
I'd rather have protection than not. That's all I'm saying.
Against a soccer ball?
Yep. I'd rather have protection than not.
Oh, man. You got CTE now?
If I do, I'm living a normal life, though. I ain't killing nobody. I got no bodies.
But
I don't think about killing myself tomorrow.
Junior Seau, we don't know that.
Oh, damn.
You don't think that Junior Seau went ahead and tried to get help?
I mean, I don't know that man's life. I don't know if he did or if he didn't. You know, all I know is what the media portrays. And sometimes the media is not, you can't believe the media with the whole narrative.
We can take the media out of it and we can go straight to what is the NFL's goal right now? Is to play a safer game.
The NFL is to have a safer game because of the media. The NFL wants to make money. The media is portraying that football is not safe. The media wants people to still play football, kids to play football. Why? Because that's what keeps money in their pocket. You need these kids to keep playing football to have players advance to college, to pros, to have a product. So you have to play to the media. That's what the NFL is doing. If the media wasn't blowing this stuff up, like the whole movie, what was it, Concussion? That was blasted all over. That movie was pretty much...
That was real story, though. That was real life.
It was, and it was pretty much put an end to NFL. That was probably the biggest hit to the NFL in the last... since the invention of the game. Like, that was meant to hurt the NFL, and it did what it's supposed to do.
Yes, but they shed light on a serious topic.
But that topic is not centralized with football. That's what people get wrong. CTE happens in hockey. People don't understand that. Yeah. CTE happens, like I said,
you can
soccer.
Get a concussion in a car accident.
Rugby.
Boxing.
Football. Boxing.
You're absolutely right.
So for them to paint the light on that on football was very incorrect. You know what I mean?
But
because
that was based on a true story.
It was a true story. But let me ask you a question. If you knew nothing about football or anything, you know, and I asked you, where do you think CTE comes from? The first thing that comes to your mind is probably football. You ask a person that knows nothing about football,
I would say head trauma.
And you would probably, the first sport you would think of is football because of the movie Concussion, and everybody relates CTE to football.
I've never seen Concussion. I've never seen the movie. I know Will Smith was in it, right?
Right.
Yeah, but I never seen it.
But if you were to ask your mom tomorrow about CTE, what do you think the first sport would be?
Well,
She
you know
would
what?
say.
But we're also in America, where if you were to go ahead and if we were in Mexico City or you were to ask my grandmother, where do you think CTE comes from? And you would explain to her it comes from concussions. She wouldn't tell you football. Probably she don't watch football. She knows football as football Americano. Because football to her is soccer.
That's interesting. I think the majority of people they're just oblivious.
She may even say boxing before she would say football. It all just depends on where you are.
Maybe you might be right. Like I said, I find it very fascinating. Like I would love to scale that and just ask people that are oblivious to all sports. You know, where do you think CTE stems from? Where do you think it comes from mostly? And I would just love to see what people say. Like they're raw answers, real answers. I would think that majority of people would say football just because how the media paints the picture.
But you're talking about people that don't know anything about sports. So this is people that must not know about the media either.
They don't watch
so
sports,
if you were
but
to
they
ask
watch
me,
news.
If you were to ask me, okay, so there's CTE, you get it from concussions because of head trauma. Where do you get it from? Me, honestly, if I had never watched sports in my life before, but I knew what hockey was, I knew what rugby was, I knew what soccer was, I knew what golf was, I knew what boxing was, I knew what football was, softball, whatever it may be, I would probably go ahead and say boxing.
Let me ask you this. This is an even more neutral question. If you pulled out your phone right now with the Google, Yahoo, whatever, and you typed in just CTE, what do you think will be what do you think will be the first thing that pops up?
Because of my search history, it's going to be football. Because I research a lot of football, especially this time of the year because it's football season it's fantasy season. So a lot of my search history right now around Google and Yahoo is going to be football related.
I agree, but I'm just saying it's crazy how, and it's unfortunate how football takes the biggest blunder for CTE.
But that's in America.
But it's the media. That's what it is. It's the media painting the narrative, painting the picture.
But it's not even
everybody
the media.
believes
but
that.
It's not even the media painting the picture. The media doesn't need to paint the picture, because is football not been the main sport that you see that athletes have suffered CTE from?
In the media? I mean, in the media.
But where else?
I mean,
but if the media was so out to get football, why wouldn't they be out to get boxing? Why wouldn't they be out to go ahead and get soccer?
So
why wouldn't they be out to get hockey? Because we have plenty of hockey teams. We have the NHL.
So why didn't they make a movie about boxers getting CTE? How come they didn't make a movie about
because concussion was based upon a true story.
Because the Shield is the biggest thing in the United States. That's the reason why.
No, that's not true.
The Shield is the biggest sports in the United States. The NFL is the NFL is not the biggest sport in the United States.
The NFL is not viewed as the most violent sports in the USA. Why aren't they going after the UFC? Why aren't they going after MMA?
The most popular.
Why? But why go ahead and go after one when you can go ahead and go after at least 3 others? But I can think of the NHL.
I'm gonna tell you why.
You can tackle 4 sports with CTE.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because a family of 4 with the mom, dad, everybody's in the household, brother and sister, they're not gonna sit down and watch a UFC fight. They're not gonna sit down and watch 2 people bash their faces in, blood everywhere. But they will sit down and watch Sunday Night Football. There is no blood, glutz, and glamour.
That's not true because my cousin does not watch, and my cousin has a household of 4. My cousin doesn't watch football like that.
Yeah, but
he watches NHL.
But there's more people. I mean, football is the most watched sport in the United States. Period. So I mean, that's not even an argument.
I wouldn't say the most watched. It's up there with baseball.
Football is the number one. They did. If you look at the top 100 rated shows of last year, I believe out of the 100. I think only like 91 of them is not football. And I think like 2 of them is Roseanne. And like 3 of them is like the NBA. And then like 1 or 2 is baseball. But like the rest of them is all NFL football.
I find that hard. I find that specific part hard to believe because of multiple issues, because of the Kaepernick issue, because of the man that's currently in the White House. I mean, we can go ahead and we can look up. We can have Tony go ahead and look up right now the percentages.
Speak up.
Tony, can you? I know Tony's right now is, and for those of you who know, Tony's our producer. But Tony, can you look up the percentage of where NFL and NBA
top rated shows?
Oh, if you don't mind. It fluctuates because it goes from. That's very interesting. I mean, football was up there, and then it kind of just went down. Obviously, because of what happened with Kaepernick. And we have some conflicting numbers here. Basketball takes up the top spot in the rating sports. How many college students the Americans love. So it's showing right now basketball, baseball, American football in that order for 2019. But before that, it was actually... no, it was basketball even before that. So that's interesting. I actually didn't believe that. That's crazy. And they have all the numbers. Soccer was actually in 2018.
Is there a way where you could look at the top rated programs for 2019? Like we're
top rated sports programs for 2019.
So I know.
And by the way, CTE.org showed that boxing was the number one thing that came up. Yeah,
that's crazy
before football.
And that's what I would imagine if I just knew just the overview of sports and someone said, look, CTE is caused by head trauma. Where does it come from?
This is showing right here top sports audiences, and this is coming straight from Sports Media Watch. Says that the NFL Network is actually one of the top sports media is watched.
That's. I mean, when he said the boxing thing, I would have never thought that. You know what I mean? But if you don't look it up online and you don't do the research on it, like the media paints the picture as football is the bad guy for CTE. They don't say nothing about boxing. They didn't glorify Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez was glorified. Oh, NFL player kills 2 people. NFL player commits suicide in jail.
But that's what he's known for.
Junior Seau, NFL player with CTE commits suicide. This is what the media paints.
Well, no, they didn't say with CTE initially because you can only find out if you have CTE after they go ahead and after they do the autopsy.
But when they confirmed it, it was big time news that we find out he had CTE, NFL player.
But these are specific situations, and you're right. Maybe that they are saying that NFL player, because all the CTE cases as of now are coming from NFL players. So yes, the NFL may be getting the target from it, but they have no other sports to go ahead and say, okay, well, this former UFC fighter, or this former NHL hockey player, or this former boxer.
Let me ask you something. Why do you think they attacked the NFL and not boxing? When he clearly looked it up and it said boxing is the top sport for CTE issues.
Because they're finding a common theme amongst these high-profile athletes that are having this specific issue.
So you don't think it's because football's pop? That's what reaches. Football reaches more households than boxing. So you're telling me that...
But you tell me the last time you heard about a boxer going ahead and committing suicide because of CTE.
I'd have to look it up.
No. Because I can name 2 NFL players, but I cannot name 1 NHL hockey player. I cannot name 1 soccer player. I cannot name 1 player from any other sport in the world.
But you're proving,
in the world, Craig.
But you're proving my point. You're proving my point.
No, I'm not.
You are.
No, you're saying the media is going ahead and saying, they're going after the NFL. Because the common theme as of right now, compared to any other sport in the world, is the NFL.
That you know of.
That is known of.
That you know of.
So you tell me what other boxer, soccer player, NHL player, baseball player, any other sport in the world. I'm going to challenge you to name one person from any other sport in the world, Warren, that has went ahead and has committed suicide and has been linked to CTE.
You're proving my point, and my point has been football's the more popular sport. So
it has nothing to do with the popular sport.
Yes, it does. It does. Because
I'm asking you right now to go ahead and name one player, one pro athlete, or even semi-pro amateur athlete that has committed suicide related CTE in any other sport in the world that we know of.
I have to look it up.
Exactly. You would have to look it up and you would have to dig deep.
Yeah, but they display Junior Seau because he's a big name in football and it's a big sport. Duh. This is what they're doing. They're taking CTE and they're tying it with the biggest thing in America to display, oh, we have an issue. So why doesn't the media say, okay, because I'm pretty sure there is somebody in boxing, there is somebody in hockey, there is somebody in these other sports. Okay. I may just not know about them. I may not know the name off the top of my head, but everybody knows Junior Seau. Everybody knows Aaron Hernandez and his whole story. They all played in the NFL. The NFL is the biggest sport going. Boxing, okay, oh yeah, this boxer died of CTE. Nobody really knows about it. You know what I mean? So what? You know what I mean? He's a nobody compared to Junior Seau. But a guy in the NFL, played in the NFL, that's a Hall of Famer, had a Hall of Fame career, had CTE, ended up committing suicide. They're gonna blast it all over the media.
Because the man went ahead and could no longer handle himself. Why do you think Andrew Luck went ahead and retired? He was tired of rehabbing. He said that he didn't want to grow old to go ahead and be in pain. He didn't want to go ahead and continue to rehab himself. He didn't want to put his body through all that. Now, do you think that if Junior Seau and or Aaron Hernandez did not come back with CTE, that they would be going after the NFL?
What do you mean? So you're saying if they didn't come back with CTE, would they still? I mean, I don't think it would have been as big of a story. You know, like it was a big story when Aaron Hernandez was doing what he was doing. But then it's like he committed suicide, and then they came back and was like, oh, and he had CTE. I mean, CTE, it will forever be tied to the NFL. You know what I mean? Forever.
Well, that's because of these big name players that have had it. If Junior Seau and Aaron Hernandez never had, or even if just one of them, it was a one-off situation, do you think they're going as hard in the media to go ahead and correlate CTE with what is going on?
Do you think Mike Tyson has CTE?
Possibly, but has he went ahead and is he harming anybody? What is this man doing right now, though?
I mean,
Mike Tyson runs a podcast and he owns a marijuana grow farm.
He's living. As far as we know, he's living a normal life. Why did Troy Aikman retire? Because of what? Head injuries, concussions, multiple. He couldn't get over it.
Well, same thing with Steve Young.
Exactly. So if I'm a betting man and somebody came up to me and be like, look, you want to bet $2 million that when they do the autopsy of Michael Irvin and Steve Young, and the guy says, I don't think they have CTE, but I'll bet you $2 million. You gotta take the bet that they do have CTE. I'm taking the bet. I think not Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman has CTE to this day.
Are you gonna say it's in the same severe case as Junior Seau?
I mean,
because Troy Aikman didn't have as many hits as Junior Seau had.
That was concussion Aikman. Dude always had concussions. Always. I mean, that dude was always missing games.
But that's part of my point is that the NFL is trying. If we're going back and we're coming full circle to Vontaze, right? The NFL is trying to stop this from happening more than it happens. They're trying to go ahead and have a decrease in concussions. This dude is out here and being reckless. He's not only putting Jack Doyle in harm's way, he's putting himself into harm's way. Because what's going to go ahead and happen if Vontaze goes ahead and goes ahead and meets his untimely demise at his own hands, and they say, well, he had CTE. Who's going to get blamed? The NFL, because they're the ones that employed him.
That's the Shield. They always blame the Shield.
Yes, but he's the one that went ahead and continued to do helmet to helmet. It's not the Shield. It's not the NFL that went ahead and said, "Hey, hit this man helmet to helmet."
Yeah, but
the Shield is trying to stop you from hitting this man helmet to helmet.
Yeah, but the Shield is allowing him to play, so they have to.
But it's not like they can go ahead and just cut ties with this dude. It's not that easy.
The NFL's trying to clean up hits, and that's what Vontaze Burfict and CTE, and that's what Vontaze Burfict is the number one offender of, which get him out of the league if he's.
And that's what they're trying to do with the whole season-ending suspension, postseason also.
They keep hiring these guys.
Whoa, buddy, that is definitely a topic that is to be continued. All right, let's move on. On Sunday, the 4-0 San Francisco 49ers traveled to LA to take on the Rams. The Rams are coming off a 2-game losing streak with a must-win game against the 49ers. Warren, with 6 games into the season, is this a must-win game for the Los Angeles Rams?
Most definitely. This is most definitely a must-win for the LA Rams. They lost a tough one in Seattle. You know, Seattle brought it, and it was a back and forth game. You know, it was a division game. I believe it was the first division game for both teams, but for Seattle and LA. But I mean, the Rams are coming off a 2-game skid. I mean, they lost to Seattle. And then I forget who they lost to before that, but
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and they lost a bad one to Tampa Bay. They got blown out at home.
That was crazy.
Yeah, it was. So this is a tough one. I mean, it's another division game. You got San Francisco that's 4-0, red hot. They're going into LA, and I mean, if the Niners go 5-0 and you're the Rams, you can't fall to 3-3. You know, because if you look at the NFC West is almost looking like the best division or little conference in football. I mean, you got the Niners, you got Seattle, you got the Rams, you got Arizona. You know, you got the Niners at 4-0, and then you got Seattle at 4-1. You got the Rams at 3-2, and then I believe Arizona got their first win last week.
They're 1-3-1.
Yeah, 1-3-1. So they're really not in contention. So if the Rams lose this game, they'll fall to 3-3 and 0-2 in the conference, and you're chasing now a 5-0 San Francisco team and a 4-1 Seattle team that you already lost to. So I know it's early in the year, but I mean, this is a must win for them. They can't, in my opinion, they can't lose this game. But they're going into this game, you know, not full strength. I mean, you got Gurley down, you got Talib down,
Clay Matthews.
Clay Matthews that I believe he got hurt last game.
Broken jaw.
Yeah, broken jaw, which is weird. You don't really see that in the NFL too often. But this is a must win for them. Like, they have to come out and they got to win the game. I mean, this is a team that had, I mean, preseason expectations of getting back to the Super Bowl. You know, this is the team that They played New England pretty tough last year in the Super Bowl. They only lost what was like 10-3.
Very low score. I think it was one of the lowest scoring Super Bowls.
Yeah, something like that, like 10-3. So, I mean, to start off this season 3-3, I mean, it'll be tough to bounce back. So, and plus Gurley, I mean, he's not looking like what he was even a year ago, you know? So, in my opinion, this is a must win. I don't think they win. I think the Niners come out and I think they dominate. A lot of people are down on the Niners because, the Niners are riding high, but a lot of people don't trust them because they feel like their wins to this point haven't been against legit teams. So
I think it's like 5-15 combined.
Something like that. But, I mean, if you look at the way the Niners are playing, winning these games, it's great defense and Shanahan, you know, calling amazing game plans. So
yeah, I agree with you 100%, like especially your defensive line.
Right.
The Niners' defensive line has been great. And I will give him that 100%. At this point, the Rams do need to go ahead and win this game because if they go 3-3, they're basically on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs and beyond.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, if they lose this, I mean, you could almost say they're out of it. I mean,
I would say it's too early to say they're out of it, but the way that Russell Wilson is right now, I mean, to me, after last week's performance of everybody in the league, Russell Wilson is my number one for MVP this year.
Okay.
And I will go ahead. I've always liked Russell Wilson. I've never had an issue. A lot of people underrate that man a lot because of he was with one of the greatest trios in that backfield that has been around the NFL in a very long time, if almost ever, which was the Legion of Boom.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and the 12th man.
And the 12th, you could say the 12th man too, but you got to realize is that half of your games, that 12th man is not there.
Correct. I agree.
So for me is that Russell Wilson was winning games with Seattle, but now, and that was with the Legion of Boom, he was winning games with Seattle. Now this dude is winning games for Seattle.
Yeah.
This dude has taken, and I'm not saying that their defense is a slouch, but it is definitely a decline from what they had.
Most definitely.
That man Bobby Wagner is something vicious. I respect the hell out of Bobby Wagner, right? But that backfield is not the same as it's been.
No.
You know. No. He does not have the same offense as he once had.
No.
I mean, you got to realize that one time this dude, his number one now used to be his number 2 or number 3. Ty Lockett was like wide receiver 3.
When he had Doug Baldwin, yeah.
Yeah, when he had Doug Baldwin, even with Marshawn.
Yeah.
And he downgraded from Marshawn to Thomas Rawls, which was a decline because we're talking about beast mode here. To me, I'm 100% riding beast mode all the way as one of the greatest Seattle backs to ever do it.
Right. He had Jimmy Graham too.
Well, he had Jimmy Graham, but Jimmy Graham was.
You think he was better than Disley at this point?
That's yet to be seen. But Jimmy Graham wasn't New Orleans Jimmy Graham.
No, I agree. He was still a name, though. He was still a name.
Well, he's the name because of the name that he made
in New Orleans.
In New Orleans. Now, that's yet to be seen if that he was a product of Drew Brees, because he's kind of showing out a little bit now underneath Rodgers, but it may just be the system that they were running before. Right. But this man right now, 2 years ago, Ty Lockett wasn't wide receiver number 1.
Nah, he wasn't.
He wasn't even wide receiver 2, I don't believe.
No. Out of Kansas State, I think they drafted him more to be like a utility player, to be honest. Because remember, he was returning punts and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he blossomed to what he is now.
Yeah, and he's putting in work, but I believe that Ty Lockett is a product of Russell Wilson. Almost the same thing as Jimmy Graham. I mean, it's almost safe to say Jimmy Graham was a product of Drew Brees, because if Jimmy Graham was on any other team that was a mediocre or subpar team that didn't have someone on the level of Brees, which was, to me, Russell Wilson is a tier 1 quarterback.
Without question.
But if you put Jimmy Graham on a tier 3, if you put Jimmy Graham in O.J. Howard's spot now, and you put O.J. Howard with New Orleans, O.J. Howard is going to surpass Jimmy Graham.
Possibly. I can see where you're coming from with that. I can see.
Because if you go ahead and if you put Jimmy Graham with Bruce Arians and the way that Bruce Arians runs his offense, Jimmy Graham is not going to be Jimmy Graham that we know today.
Right.
So I believe that Jimmy Graham, and I'm not trying to take any, and it sounds like I'm trying to take something away from Jimmy Graham, but I'm not. But Jimmy Graham is great because of not only his athleticism, but because of Peyton and because of Drew Brees.
Right.
That's what established him to be the Jimmy Graham we know today and the name that is known around the league.
Right. That's where he made his name.
Yeah. Now you realize that underneath Carroll and with Russ, he wasn't really big in their system. He went to Green Bay. I don't believe he really did too much initially with Aaron Rodgers. But this year, under LaFleur and Rodgers, he's getting a little more, he's coming back from the dead.
Right. He's out of his prime, too, though.
He is.
Yeah.
But I think Russ right now, with everything that he has, is to me, he is slightly ahead of Mahomes in the MVP candidacy.
Right.
But back to what we're talking about, the Niners and the Rams, is that this is a must-win. Now, the Rams are at a handicap because they don't have Clay Matthews, because they don't have All-Pro Talib on their side in the backfield. They're at a disadvantage.
Right.
But when it comes to the receivers, the Niners don't really – the only receiver that the Niners really have, when you think about it, that lines up on the outside is going to be Kittle's. Goodwin, he's nice on the deeper routes.
Not consistent.
But he's not consistent.
Right.
Gurley this week is out. He has the thigh contusion, which I think that's a cover-up.
Same here. I agree with that.
I agree it's a cover-up for the knees. I agree. Who's to know that the knees haven't flamed up?
Right.
So, to me, it is a must-win. Jared Goff is going to have to be prime Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm.
He still has some weapons, but Malcolm hasn't really done anything to step in and fulfill the shoes of Todd Gurley.
No, not at all.
And Kupp, I want to say, is still in concussion protocol.
Cooks.
It's
Brandon
not
Cooks.
Kupp.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, yeah.
Right.
So he has to rely on Kupp and Woods.
Yep.
Now, we both know that Kupp and Woods can fill those shoes without Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, they won't miss a beat.
They won't miss a beat. Rob Woods is going to go ahead and he's going to see way more. And we know from last season when Cooks went out because ACL that Robert Woods can go ahead and he can show up and show out.
Yep.
Alongside of Cooks or Kupp, no matter who he's going ahead and he's rolling with.
Yep, I agree.
So the passing game is probably going to be a little bit heavier. So far this year, the Rams, I want to say passing game has been on the upward trend. That could be because of Gurley and his knees compared to last year, especially because Gurley's out now and Malcolm hasn't really shown up the way that they've needed him to.
Right.
I see the game really resting upon Jared Goff. I know you're not really heavy on Jared Goff. I think the dude has a high ceiling on his potential, but it is definitely time to go ahead and this is the game. If you're McVay, you need to outplan Shanahan.
Which I don't think he will. I mean, I respect both of them highly. I feel like they're both, when it comes to like putting together a game plan, calling a game, they're you have 1 and 2 in the business. I mean, I can't really say that. I mean, you got Bill Belichick. And he has what's his name over there?
Josh Daniels.
Josh Daniels, yeah. So you got those are like the top 4, top 5 names in the business. Like these guys setting up, going through a game and preparing for a game. It gets no better than
Well,
this.
you have to add in Pete Carroll in there too.
Yeah, somewhat of Pete Carroll, somewhat. I think a lot of what Russ does is improv, though.
That's natural ability.
Yeah, that's he does a lot of it. He makes it up on the go. But like I watch Jimmy G, and I'm just like, a lot of it, I'm like, this is not you, bruh. You know what I mean? Like this is Shanahan. Like Shanahan is scheming this guy wide open to where you can't mess it up. You know what I mean? And so that's what has me excited for this coming game. I felt like it should have been a Sunday night game. There was talks earlier during the week where it was going to be flexed, but they ended up not flexing it out. I think it probably had something to do with the Rams losing to Seattle. If they would have won, I think they probably would have moved it to Sunday night. But, I mean, who knows? Who knows why the NFL makes the decisions they do. But I'm excited for it. I think the main problem with the Rams, though, is what made them so successful is the running game. In the past, like that's what made them so deadly, and they set up everything off the running game, you know. And now that Gurley isn't the Gurley that we seen last year or even 2 years ago, the MVP Gurley, you know, they look like a shell of themselves. You know what I mean? Because they're relying on the passing game, and I feel like the passing game, I don't trust Goff to make the right decisions in the passing game. I believe his interceptions is even up right now at this point than he was last year.
Yeah, but they were also passing the ball a whole lot more.
Correct. They are throwing the ball a lot more. Like I said, they're depending on the passing game a lot more and not the running game to open things up. And, I mean, if you look at the Niners and what they bring to the table, getting after the quarterback is what they do best. I mean, you bring in D Ford, you bring in Bosa, you know, you got Armstead, and you got Buckner.
They proved that last week against Baker.
So, I mean, I think they're gonna put their ears back and they're gonna rush the passer, and I think that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna create havoc, get turnovers, sacks. I think it's gonna be a hard fought game. I don't think the Niners will come in and completely dominate because I mean, a coach like McVay, he's going to make things happen. Period. I do forecast the Niners winning. I see a game anywhere from I would say the Niners probably win 24-20, maybe 31-24, something around that range.
Within 7.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight game because it's in conference rivals, big game. Both teams need this game.
I think Cup gets utilized a lot.
I agree.
Because the secondary for the Niners isn't top notch. And the way that Richard Sherman lines up compared to the way that Cup lines up, they line up on different parts of the field.
Right.
So more than likely, Sherm is going to go ahead and line up across from Woods. And Cup has been Goff's golden child.
Yep.
Right? I was lucky enough to go ahead and receive a trade in fantasy for Cooper Kupp. That's what Simone calls him, Cooper Kupp. And you have to do the inflection, Cooper Kupp.
That's hecka funny, man.
If you can't see Simone right now, she's laughing.
Oh,
Cheesing. We call you Pat Mahomes. Cheesy Mahomes. But I think that's going to be something that Shanahan goes ahead and definitely game plans for. Not Shanahan, McVay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something definitely McVay is going to go ahead and game plan for, is the fact that Robert Woods is going to line up across Sherm. Now, they may go ahead and they may switch Sherman, but if it's up to McVay, he's going to keep Kupp away from Sherm as much as possible because Kupp has been the go-to even with Brandon Cooks in the lineup.
Yep.
Right? So I know that Brandon Cooks right now is still in the protocol, but that's not to say that he's not going to play on Sunday.
Right.
Now, they may try to run him as the decoy because that's a nasty trio.
Yeah, it is.
With Cooks, Kupp, and Woods.
It is.
That's a nasty trio for any team, any quarterback.
Yeah,
because you have 3 solid options.
Yeah.
Robert Woods is no slouch.
No.
Not at all.
No.
You could put him on any team in the NFL and he's a solid
number 2.
Solid number 2.
Correct.
I would trust him in over half of the league as a solid number 2.
Correct. I agree.
You put Woods on Seattle, I think Woods would battle back and forth with Lockett as wide receiver number 1.
I agree. No.
Woods to me as a wide receiver 3, man.
Woods is nice. They have a nice stable over there, which is why you got to get after the quarterback. You got to get after Goff. You got to confuse him. You got to get in his face. You got to hit him. You just got to get to him any chance you can. If you got to blitz, whatever you got to do.
I think if they can go ahead and get Cooks out of concussion protocol, the what I see them doing is they see him running Kupp as regular. They go ahead and they run Woods as they normally would, and they run Cooks on short routes, if anything. Maybe they may send him on the deep ball because it's less contact after those 5 yards to keep him out of that concussion issue or continued injury issues. They may go ahead and run him as a deep route diversion and go ahead and send Cooper and Woods on the medium and maybe the drag or the over under routes. They may do that, but I see that if McVay can get Cooks in there and they know that he's not going to be a health issue and they're not going to risk him for longevity of the season, I see them running Cooks as a decoy a lot of the time.
Okay.
So just a fantasy piece of advice: if you have Cooks, you may want to look at other options that are available to you.
Which I have Cooks.
I know you have Cooks. I'm going to slide that on the end there because I need you to get this W this week.
So who you got winning the game this week? Who you got in this probably the biggest game of the week?
The thing about it is that if Juszczyk didn't go down and Juszczyk wasn't out for 6 weeks, I would have the Niners clear cut. But Rams are at home. They did get embarrassed by Tampa Bay. But you have McVay that knows how to go ahead and twist and tweak what he needs to do on offense. Right? Shanahan and the D coordinator may go ahead and game plan for pass heavy, but they may come out with screen passes. They may go ahead and get Malcolm involved a whole lot more because they're not expecting Malcolm to have a big game because he really hasn't had too many big games at all this season.
Right.
I am with you 100% on a very close game. I can see this coming down to the last part, maybe the second half of the fourth quarter where it's close, depending on who they have lined up because Eric Weddle hasn't been himself either. Mm-hmm. He's been kind of on a downward slope compared to when he was in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
So if Weddle can go ahead and step it up, and you can fear the beard that game, and he can go ahead and try to spy Kittle, I can see that because of the lack of offense that the Niners have now, because you see last game when Juszczyk went out, the running game started to go down because Breda went off.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the first quarter, if you were playing fantasy, and especially if you were in like a PPR league, the dude had over 20 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, he had 24 with like 6 minutes in the fourth. 6 minutes
in
left
the first.
Yeah.
This dude was – Aaron Jones had a hell of a week last week, and he was putting Aaron Jones to shame.
Yeah, he could have had a killer game.
But it was crazy because, Booger McFarland, I'll listen to him, and, sometimes you kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. He adds, his little color commentary. But he went ahead and he said, okay, well, let me find out what's going to happen now that Juszczyk is out. And it kind of struck me like, oh, shit, Booger's right. Like, this is the first time that I've really went ahead and stopped and was like, oh, man. Like, I wasn't already thinking that.
Right.
So I agreed with him 100%. So this may be something that McVay is going ahead and game planning for too, because it's a lot easier to game plan for the run when you don't have this 230-pound line or fullback blocking, because you've seen how Breda looked. Breda looked like Le'Veon back in the day. There was, I think, 2 plays before Juszczyk went down. Breda was right behind him and was touching his back and was trying to go and figure out which way he was going.
Mm-hmm.
So you take out Juszczyk, which is a big man trying to block and clear your way. It gets a little hairy for you because it got hairy after Juszczyk went out. The running game kind of slowed down and they lent on Kittles a little more.
You're right. I think you hit that spot on. They're gonna miss Juice, and they lost their 2 tackles, McGlinchey and Staley. They're both hurt. So I do agree with you, but to me, I feel like the X factor in this whole thing is just Shanahan, man. Like, you give him time to prepare, put together a game plan. He's gonna figure something out. He gonna put somebody back there.
You know what though? out of coaches, I will take McVay over Shanahan.
I don't know about that one, man. Like, Shanahan, I can't be mad at you for that. Honestly, it's arguable both ways. You know what I mean? To me, the telling difference between the two is I seen them both coach the Super Bowl. McVay.
He was an OC.
McVay was the head coach. Shanahan was the OC.
He took a team. So to me, McVay took a team that I think they were sub 500.
Yeah, but they had the talent.
They definitely did, because that year I drafted Gurley first round. Right. He was a bust.
Right. Well, the problem was Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher. You're right.
Fisher, yeah.
So you went ahead and you take McVay, and within 2 years they're in the Super Bowl.
Flip that thing around.
100%. And it's not like they changed their talent.
Right.
The Rams had the same talent.
Yeah, they did. They just maybe added a little piece here and there, but it's generally the
sprinkle some of that McVay magic on that thing a couple times.
But you get in the Super Bowl. And what, you only put up 3 points?
Against one of the greatest?
Bill Belichick?
Okay, but you go to the Super Bowl, you're running the offense, and you have a 28-3 lead?
Don't get me wrong. He blew the lead.
28-3 at the half.
He blew the lead.
28-3 at the half.
But he had Atlanta doing his thing though. Atlanta at that offense in that first half was doing their thing.
Well, defense came through too.
The D
Because
scored one
Ricardo,
touchdown.
I think it was Ricardo Allen was the first ever DB to ever
That
do a
pick
pick
six.
six
Yeah.
on Brady.
So
But
that offense was still humming.
that offense was cooking, but they didn't keep the game plan.
I agree. In the second,
Shanahan lost a 28-3 lead against Belichick.
He did.
McVay, as a head coach, not only was he helping run offense and defense, he kept it within 7 points. And it was the Gronk touchdown was the only reason why they won. For you to go ahead and say that McVay, as a head coach, to hold Belichick to 10 points in the Super Bowl, I'll take that any day.
I mean, I wouldn't. I don't give that credit to McVay. He's an offensive guy.
man.
He don't really. I don't think he coaches the defense. What Shanahan does is Salah does. I don't know who the D coordinator in LA is, but
yeah, I can't recall.
I mostly give the offense to him. But I mean, to put up only 3 points and he's
But to hold the Pats to 13?
So let me ask you.
I mean,
this.
because think about it, because offensive-wise in Atlanta as a whole, Atlanta held them to 3 points in the first half.
yeah, they yeah.
The only thing that Shanahan had to do was run that clock out.
Let me ask you this: if Shanahan is the OC at the Rams last year in the Super Bowl, do you think they only scored 3 points?
I think the way that defense was cooking, I still think that they lose by a slim margin.
But do you think they only put up 3 points?
That's hard to say.
Because I mean,
That was a defensive heavy game.
I mean, the Chiefs put up what 30 on that Patriots team in the playoffs. I mean, the Rams. I mean, you can't you 3 points. Come on, I think.
But how much did the Rams score in the division
against New Orleans?
Yeah.
I think that finished like it was in like the 20s, I believe. So I mean, they were scoring, they were putting up some type of points, but they're getting a big game in three.
Yeah, but and my argument has always been, especially against Jared Goff and for Jared Goff, is that you have a dude that is in his early 20s. He's 3 years deep in the league, and he's already on the biggest stage that you can have in football, if not in pro sports in America, next to the World Series. Right? Maybe the NBA Finals, but you're on one of the biggest stages in the United States. Right? People tune in to watch. They don't even tune in to watch you. They tune in to watch the commercials. Like that's the equivalent of the stage that you're on as a 23-year-old dude, the third year in the league. There was a lot of pressure on this dude. I don't think that he was 100% ready for it. But a lot of it came on him because you're facilitating that ball, whether you're running your screen passes, whether you're running your regular play passes to Cooks, Woods, or Cup, or you're handing the ball off. You're not going to hand the ball off every time. Handing the ball off is the simplest thing you can do as a quarterback.
I agree. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks in that spot before, though, that have been in the league only a couple years, get to the Super Bowl, and they don't look like that. And I mean,
but everybody's different.
To me, that was a combination of things. I think it was golf, being young, a deer in headlights, and I think McVay got to help out his man a little bit. You know what I mean?
You're absolutely right.
He gotta do a better job, and I think if he gets back to that situation, I think the Rams will probably be a lot more successful. But
that's why I always hold my grudges against Matt Ryan. It's because he's had those deer in headlights. He's had those choke artist situations in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's why I've never been big on him. Yeah, he's had an MVP season, but okay. You're MVP with no ring, and you have the worst blowout and collapse in Super Bowl history.
I like Matt Ryan. It could be worse, man. You could have Andy Dalton. I mean,
Andy Dalton wouldn't have got us to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. So,
but the expectations aren't there.
I'd rather have Matt Ryan than a lot of guys.
You maybe. I mean, I would too. But the ceiling for Jared Goff at this point is a lot higher to surpass Matt Ryan. Because we have went ahead, and we've compared numbers within the first 3 years, compared to games played. And Goff has had a better career within 3 full seasons played.
Well, Goff's numbers was trash without McVay.
Yeah, but
And Shannon and Ryan had his best years with Shanahan. So,
but when that can go back to coaching as well.
true. I agree.
I would much rather take McVay than I would Shanahan.
If
If you had to start a team right now, let's be honest, take the 49er fandom out of it. Let's not be biased here. Let's be completely honest. If you had to go ahead and you, Warren, are starting a team tomorrow and you have McVay and you have Shanahan applying for head coach, who are you going with?
I mean, you're gonna call me a homer for this. So, but I'm not picking him because what I see him do with the Niners. I'm taking Shanahan because of his track record. Every stop he's been at, offensively, the players have the best years of their career, and I can't argue that. I mean, everywhere he's been, to Houston, to Washington, to San Francisco, to Atlanta.
Washington made the playoffs 1 year.
And the year they made the playoffs, they made it a few years ago with under Jay Gruden. I believe he was there when they had RG3, and that was when RG3 went crazy. And then he was in Houston when they had Andre Johnson, the receiver, and that was the best year Andre Johnson's had in his career. And then you look at Julio's numbers when he was in Atlanta, like Julio was putting up obscene numbers.
Yeah, but you're talking about as an offensive coordinator. I'm talking about as a head coach.
I mean,
because don't forget that McVay was underneath Gruden in Tampa Bay.
He was there too. He was there.
They won a Super Bowl.
I'm not sure. Possibly we have to look that up.
I want to say that McVay. Tony, can you look that up and see if Sean McVay was with Tampa Bay? Because I want to say he was with Tampa Bay when they won a Super Bowl against the Raiders.
Possibly, but I mean, I'm rolling with Shanahan. I just think the guy. I mean, I think he's starting to put it all together now as a head coach. When he first came to San Francisco, I think he really didn't have all the pieces. If you look at this team now, they kind of put this team together themselves.
But do you contribute that to Shanahan or you contribute that to Lynch?
Defensively, I don't know. That's tough to say. That's tough to say because I feel like they did it collectively. I think no matter who was on the offense.
But wasn't Buckner a Lynch pick?
Buckner was there before both of them. So
I thought he was drafted the year.
Now Buckner got their first draft pick was Solomon Thomas.
No, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of. Not Buckner.
Yeah.
Thomas.
Because
Thomas came from Stanford.
Correct.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. Not Buckner.
Correct.
So, but I want to say Thomas was a Lynch pick.
Yeah, he was.
If I remember correctly, that wasn't a Shanahan pick.
No, but those two came together. So that was before. That was the regime before. That was I can't think of his name. I couldn't stand the guy, but they brought in Bosa. That's them. They brought in Fred Warner. That's them. Quan Alexander, D Ford.
But they brought in a lot more defensive presence.
Correct. But see, that's why I give Shanahan so much respect. Is because you look at our receivers, we don't have a number one receiver, and the offense still clicks.
But
we don't really.
I wouldn't say the offense clicks. I say your defense is the one that's winning you games.
Look at the offense though. Like, look at our running backs. We don't really have any. We don't have a Kamara, Zeke, even a Chubb. We don't have that. We just have a bunch of guys, and it's more Shanahan scheming this shit to work.
I wouldn't say a
Kittle
lot
came out of nowhere.
Yeah, but Kittle was a good talent. But Tony McVay though on Tampa Bay.
You were talking about Sean McVay with Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
He ended up started coaching in 2008, and they won the Super Bowl in 2003.
Okay, so McVay wasn't there.
Okay.
I know McVay was there with Gruden though. I know for a fact he was there because Gruden had talked about McVay being there. But I just. You have a point when it comes to offensive coordinator, but for McVay to be with the Rams for 2 years and turned a team that was sub 500 to a Super Bowl team.
Well, a lot of the talent was there. San Francisco was really it was when
Yeah, but you guys, but I
when
mean,
they took over the team, the Niners was there was no talent there, and they said it. Their whole motto from when they got there was brick by brick. Like, we're not going to do it in 1 or 2 years, but we're going to get there. And I mean, now you look at it, they're
would you
almost
contribute?
there.
Would you contribute that brick by brick with Lynch and Shanahan?
I think it's like I said, we haven't really added no pieces to the offense. I mean, we add no major superstars.
But I contribute that a lot to John Lynch.
Defensively,
Defensively, I contribute your team to John Lynch more than I do Shanahan.
Correct. Offensively, I say it's more Shanahan, because I mean,
your offense isn't. Your defense is what is holding you guys up. I'm not going to say your defense is what's winning you games, because your offense has to score. Kittles is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Juszczyk is a big part.
Juice,
but Juice was there before Shanahan got there.
No, Juice was brought in by Shanahan. Shanahan went and got Juice. He went and got Tevin Coleman. He went and got
got Coleman, yeah, but him and Coleman have a past though.
Yeah, and he got McKinnon from Minnesota, but we have yet to see him.
Well, McKinnon's about to be cut at the end of the season.
He's out of there. They got Kittle. Goodwin was there before them.
But I thought Juszczyk was there before too.
Juice came from Baltimore. He was in Baltimore.
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Who was the rugby player you guys had before?
Oh, that was the guy that the last regime got, and he just never panned out. He was a special teams player.
They didn't use him though, but I thought he was running fullback too though.
He was playing. We had him playing running back, fullback a little bit, but I think he was.
Okay, so I am thinking of Juszczyk when he was in Baltimore, because he was a solid. If you would have paired Juszczyk with Ingram now, oh man.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man.
I mean, you look at our offense. We're like one of the only teams that run a fullback. So
yeah, nowadays, yeah.
And Juice is vital, because Juice, he's actually a weapon. He catches passes out the backfield as well. So I don't know, this game Sunday. I feel like it's the must-see game of the week. I think it's going to be a good game. I got the Niners. Obviously, you got LA winning the game.
I only give it to them because of home field advantage.
Okay.
But the only thing that's hurting them is the fact that they have 3 big pieces that are missing, which is going to be Talib, Clay Matthews, and Gurley.
And Gurley.
So those aren't like little pieces or pieces that try to help hold it up. Like, these are big names.
Centerpieces, yeah.
These can go ahead, and these players individually have a huge impact on the game.
Right.
So you have 3 bigger name pieces that are going to go ahead, because think about it. If you go ahead, you have Talib out there, that they're going to lock down a receiver. He's still a Pro Bowl DB.
Right.
Right. Clay Matthews, I wouldn't say he's maybe a Pro Bowl linebacker, but he's still making that presence felt in the middle of the field. He's still a field general.
Yeah.
And you have Todd Gurley, which he still commands a scheme toward the running game more than Malcolm does now.
Yeah.
So, it is a little bit lopsided. To me, the teams are kind of even at this point. To me, it's hard to say. I would say maybe because the Rams have home field advantage and they don't want to get disrespected like they did by Tampa Bay, but we'll see.
All right, we'll see.
Now for our next segment is rapid fire round. Each of the guys are going to pick a winner from the next upcoming games. We're going to start with Warren. Panthers or Bucks?
This is the game that's a London game. McCaffrey went off last game. I'm gonna roll with Kyle Allen and Panthers.
McCaffrey did not practice, I know, on Wednesday, but I know that the Panthers are now going to start to go ahead and not let him practice on Wednesdays, give him a couple of days off. Greg Olsen was a really big factor last time Tampa Bay played. Tampa Bay really has not lost a step defensive-wise. I'm going with Panthers on this one.
Bengals or Ravens?
Ooh, Cincinnati's been abysmal all year. I think they're on the eve of AJ Green coming back. If he comes back, we'll see. but the Ravens are riding high. I think I'm gonna ride with the Ravens.
Ravens, they're going to lean a lot more on Mark Ingram. Bengals defense has been one of the top defenses against the receivers. I don't believe they've let a receiver go over 60 yards. But I know that they get ran on a lot. The way Mark Ingram is going ahead and doing his thing, oh, man. And Lamar Jackson, they're not ready for Lamar.
Seahawks or Browns?
That's an interesting game. That's a very interesting game. I mean, Seattle's coming off a very emotional win over the Rams. Cleveland needs a win. You know, this is almost a must win for Cleveland. You know, they were embarrassed in San Francisco. Baker Mayfield had a terrible game. Bosa was making a fool out of that man of what they did in college. And then OBJ needs to get back on track. So there's a lot of high expectations for Cleveland. I'm taking Cleveland, bro. I'm taking Cleveland.
Russ goes in there. Clowney comes in there and clowns Baker some more. One of the worst offensive lines, if not the worst offensive line in the league. I'm going Superman Russ on this one. You're gonna go ahead, and if you can pick up Seattle's defense on waivers for fantasy, I would definitely go ahead and expect them to have a huge game with pressuring Baker.
Saints or Jags?
This is an interesting one as well. Minshew's been playing well. I kind of like his fantasy status, to be honest. He's on a lot of waiver wires. If I needed a quarterback, I would actually pick him up. But I know in future past podcasts, I would say New Orleans was in trouble because of the whole quarterback situation.
We actually agreed that Jacksonville was going to lose.
Did we?
Yes.
Okay.
If I remember right.
I've been wrong up to this point.
I think Jalen. Yeah, you have been.
I've been wrong. So
you said it, not me.
I said they would lose some games. I thought they would lose, but they won. So,
but 3-0 underneath good old Teddy.
Jalen Ramsey's back. I think they're in trouble this week. They're on the road. They're in Jacksonville. I think the Jags get them. I'm going with the Jags.
I think Jags cover spread, but I think that the Saints and Teddy bridge over no trouble waters goes ahead and pulls this out. The only thing that they have against him is that Jalen's coming back, so he'll be locking up Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas will not have the game that he had last week, but you still have Kamara. So Jalen is only one person on this team. Miles Jack is a presence to be acknowledged. He's an honorable mention, but with Teddy bridge under no trouble waters, I think that they go in there, they pull it off, even if it is in Jacksonville, and they skate to 4-0 under good old Teddy, 2 touchdowns.
Texans or Chiefs?
Ooh, this is going to be a shootout. This one is, I'm kind of excited for this one. I'm excited to see what Mahomes does if he bounces back. I mean, they had a tough loss last week to Indianapolis at home. He also hurt his ankle, so I know he's chopping at the bit to get back and, prove that last game was a fluke. Deshaun Watson, he played out of his mind last week, and so did Fuller. I had a crazy fantasy day, like one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. I think the Chiefs getting Tyreek back will be, if he does play, I know it's a game time decision. If he does play, it's going to be a big boost for them. But I do.
Well, they have no. But remember, they have no Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, but I really don't worry too much about him with Mahomes. Mahomes can make anybody go crazy. So I expect the Chiefs to get back on the winning track. I think they'll win this game.
I'm with you on that one. Texans don't really have the pieces with Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson to go ahead and run that clock down like Indy did last week with Marlon Mack. You do have Fuller and you do have D-Hop. But with Tyreek possibly coming back, Damian Williams coming back, I think that they have enough pieces, and they have Smiley Mahomes able to go ahead and do what he does with his magic. So I'm taking Kansas City in this one. Slim. I'm not sure what the spread is, but Kansas City by less than a touchdown.
Okay.
Redskins or Dolphins?
Battle of the tanks. They're both tanking. Washington fresh off of firing their coach. I think Case Keenum's going to roll out for Washington, even though they should play Haskins. I mean, the future is now. They got to find out what they have. Miami, I mean, they're abysmal. They have absolutely nothing. Players wants to leave. I really don't know who's going to win the game, to be honest. I mean, this is two of the worst football teams in the NFL. If I had to pick one, I'm rolling with Washington, the Redskins.
Who cares? Next.
Eagles or Vikings?
Wait. You ain't got a winner?
Who cares? I'm not even going to watch it.
Good God. All right, who's the next two?
McLaurin's back, so I may go with Washington, but who
All
cares?
right, at least we got something out of you.
Eagles or Vikings?
That's another good game. There's a lot of good slate of games this week. Man, I don't know where to go with this one, man. Philly had a good win last week. I wasn't really impressed with their offense. I feel like they could have put up a lot more than what they did last week. Their defense balled out, though, so I guess that's a good thing. Minnesota, they have a lot of turmoil, as we know. Diggs wants to get traded. Now Cousins. It's in Minnesota, so I'm going to lead on the home team. I'll probably go with the Vikes.
With Zimmer going ahead and still continuing to run the ball, leaning on Dalvin a whole lot, with the turmoil there as well, and them not clicking, even though they are home, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Eagles because of the momentum. Yep, because of the momentum. That man, walk it to him, is gonna go ahead and walk in there and do it to him. You have Alshon that'll probably go ahead and have a good game. Jordan Howard has definitely been stepping his game up as defense? Well. I think so. You know, D-Jack's not back yet, but Ertz has been showing out and showing up too. I just, the way that the Philly is going ahead and was able to beat Green Bay in Green Bay, I don't put it past them too much to go ahead and be able to walk into Minnesota and walk it to them.
Okay, it's interesting.
Falcons or Cardinals?
Oh, man. I'm going with the Cards.
That's cool. We can put a bet on it.
What you got on?
This will be definitely a high-scoring game. If I were to go ahead and bet, I would bet the over. I think the over right now is 50. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Matt Ryan has been really good with involving Austin Hooper a lot when it comes to the tight end in Arizona's defense. I mean, their head coach already came out and said they're not worried about the third option. At this point, with having Julio as your first, you have Calvert-Lee as your second, or even if you have Austin Hooper as your second, they're not worried about the third option. So the head coach for the Cardinals has already come out and said, I'm not worried about the third option, which at this point I think he's kind of referencing Austin Hooper, which is why tight ends have been going bananas. Austin Hooper is one of the top tight ends right now, especially in fantasy. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it to Atlanta.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, go ahead and think about what you want to put on it, big fella. We can go ahead and we can do some things.
Okay.
Alrighty. Titans or Broncos?
I really don't have much to say about this one. I mean, it's time. It's put up or shut up for Marcus Mariota. They have a good defense over there. Actually, I respect their defense in Tennessee. Denver, you haven't really heard much of. Well, Chubb is out for the year now, and then Von Miller, he's like on the down end of his career. He's out of his prime. I don't respect Flacco. I'm going with Tennessee.
I would go with Tennessee because you have a heavier defense in Tennessee. They can go ahead and handle the business. Flacco has kind of been in his own head in that state. Emmanuel Sanders, I believe, is coming back this game and is gonna be a little bit more relevant. Sutton has been doing his thing, but we got to go ahead and lean on Flacco with that Tennessee defense and the way that they've been showing up and showing out when they need to, and the abysmal Broncos defense. I'm gonna go with Tennessee.
Cowboys or Jets?
This is my upset of the week. I'm going with the Jets. I'm taking the Jets. Sam Darnold's back, so I think they're going to get a boost from that. The Cowboys are desperate. They need this win, but I think they're going to force it. They're going to force it too much. They're going to press too hard to get this win. So they need it. They need a win, especially after that 2-game losing streak that they're on. They lost to New Orleans and then lost last week to Green Bay. But But I think the Jets surprise people and they get this win. The weather should be an issue in this game. Out here it's supposed to be rainy, cold, just kind of a slug it out type of game. So Zeke and Le'Veon may have big games, but it's my upset of the week, man. I'm taking the Jets and looking forward to see what Stephen A is looking like on Monday.
I'm gonna go with the opposite. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys as long as they can go ahead and they don't let Le'Veon go ahead and run all over him like Aaron Jones did last week, and Lawrence goes ahead and shows up and fulfills that contract that he just got paid out for. Zeke goes ahead and shows up and shows out. I think Dak, now that he's been on a more downward slope, and he hasn't still re-signed his contract, he has a lot more riding on it than just wins. He has his pay at this point. Amari Cooper, the same thing. Amari Cooper, Dak last week, second half, threw for over 300 yards, so we know Dak has it in him. I'm going to go with, even though the weather may be formidable, as long as their defensive line and Lawrence and the rest of those linebackers show up against the run defense, because at this point that's all they really have. Crowder and Anderson may not be too much of a threat in this one, especially if the weather doesn't permit. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Steelers or Chargers?
Steelers are down to their third string quarterback. I don't expect them to do much. Offensively they've been pretty slow this year. You haven't got really much out of fantasy out of their two top players, Juju and Connor. The Chargers, I've kind of been disappointed in them. I felt like going into the season, they were more of a Super Bowl contender. But this is the game they should win, They got the better players. They got Eckler. They got Gordon coming back. Keenan Allen had a slow game last week. I feel like he should pick it up again more this week. So I'm rolling with the LA Chargers.
I'm going to go upset of the week. Steelers defense isn't really a slouch. Melvin Gordon, they're still trying to go ahead and incorporate him a little more. Eckler's been still amazing for fantasy. But I think this week, especially with Samuels being out, they're going to lean on Connor a lot more. They may go ahead and lean on Juju for the shorter routes. They still have a lot of arsenal if they can get the ball to where it needs to go. I'm going with Steelers on this one.
Lions or Packers?
This is another good game, another division game. This one, I think I might have to roll with Detroit on this one. I think Green Bay, they're riding high right now. I don't know if Devontae Adams is back or not.
No, he's not.
So I think that's going to...
He's out for another couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that's going to catch up to him. And I like how Detroit's been playing. They played Kansas City pretty tough last week. I think 2 weeks ago. I think they're coming off a bye now. So they had a couple weeks to prepare for Green Bay. So I like what I see out of Detroit. I think Green Bay is going to come down to earth, even though they do have a good defense and Jones is starting to get clicking. But I think the whole Devontae Adams is catching up to him this week. I'm taking Detroit.
I'm going to go Green Bay. That man number 12 is something vicious. He still has Allison, which isn't a slouch. He still has MVS, which isn't a slouch. The only thing that hurts them is the fact that they don't have Jamal and they don't have Adams, right? But I think that with Detroit's defense, they have went ahead and been known. Matt Patricia has been known to take his foot off the gas toward the end of the game. I think the only reason why they kept it as much as they did against the Kansas City Chiefs was because he knew he had to, right? When they lost 3 weeks ago, they took their foot. They were winning most of the game, right? And they were right up there, and then they went ahead and he took his foot off the gas, and that's why they went ahead and they caught that loss. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think that Aaron Rodgers can outplay that Detroit defense, and I think that Green Bay defense has been holding them up a lot. But I do think that the Green Bay defense will come through, because at this point you can really kind of worry about Galladay and you kind of worry about Kerryon Johnson. But Kerryon Johnson, now that C.J. Anderson is gone, they're going to rely on him more toward goal line. But it'll be interesting to see. But I'm going with my boy Aaron Rodgers.
All
Alrighty, good picks. Wow, what an episode. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, click that bell notification so you can get notified every time we upload. Also, check out our friends at Red Pill Station on YouTube as well as Instagram. Make sure you follow us on all of our socials at Real at the Office on both Twitter and Instagram. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll definitely catch you in the next one.